Hello. Welcome back. Today we're gonna do part 15 of Devil in the White City. Hard to believe we're this far into the book. Book's getting good. The fair has started in its own way. A lot of murders taking place. We love murders, right? Everybody loves a good murder story. Romance is involved. A lot of romance involved. Unfortunately, that romance has led to the murders, but this was a different time. This was back when, things were good. This was back when people were allowed to have fun. Let's go ahead and start it up. This is subchapter Modus Operandi. And so it began. A waitress disappeared from Holmes's restaurant, where his guests ate their meals. One day she was at work, the next gone, with no clear explanation for her abrupt departure. Holmes seemed as stumped as anyone. A stenographer named Jeannie Thompson disappeared, as did a woman named Evelyn Stewart, who either worked for Holmes or merely stayed in his hotel as a guest. A male physician who, for a time, had rented an office in the castle and who had befriended Holmes. They were seen together often, also had decamped, with no word to anyone. Within the hotel, chemical odors ebbed and flowed like an atmospheric tide. Some days the halls were suffused with a caustic scent, as of a cleanser applied too liberally. Other days with a silvery medicinal odor, as if a dentist were at work somewhere in the building, easing a customer into a deep sleep. There seemed to be a problem with the gas liners that fed the building, for periodically the scent of uncombusted gas permeated the halls. That's an absolute level of confidence I have in my hotel. See, that's what I like in a hotel, right? I want to know that the hotel smells like gas, murders being committed. They mentioned earlier that the hotel looks like Murderer's Row. I mean, it looks like a prison, right? So that's exactly what I like. I love the fact that nobody could sense that this was like a murderer's paradise, Nobody could tell anything, and they just assumed, oh, he's such a nice guy because he's tall, he's got blue eyes. Let me tell you something, people. And I learned this about women, too. Sometimes beauty kills. A lot of times beauty kills, okay? And, these women were just too stupid to figure it out. They were getting a taste of their own medicine, if you will, right? They were learning what women were capable of before women actually began, destroying and ruining the earth. Just because they thought, we can do everything men can do. Well, yeah, no shit, physically. But emotionally, you're not better than men. You're just not. Men rule, girls rule. Such an old adage. Everybody knows that. What the? Hey, clown, who's this? Whoa, dude. Hey, hold on. Hey, friendly. What's up, dude? What's up, dude? This dude is a clown. If you catch me on a Friday or a Saturday, you got wiped. Let's continue. There were inquiries from family and friends. As always, Holmes was sympathetic and helpful. The police still did not become involved. Apparently, there was too much else for them to do, as wealthy visitors and foreign dignitaries began arriving in ever greater numbers, shadowed by a swarm of pickpocketers, thugs, and petty swindlers. Yes, petty swindlers. Who cares about murders? I care about petty swindlers. That's what I want my police force to fucking worry about. Yeah, makes perfect fucking sense. Don't ever go to Chicago. Holmes did not kill face to face, as Jack the Ripper had done, gorging himself on warmth and viscera, but he did like proximity. He liked being near enough to hear the approach of death in the rising panic of his victims. This was when his quest for possession entered its most satisfying phase. The vault deadened most of the cries and pounding, but not all. When the hotel was full of guests, he settled for more silent means. He filled a room with gas and let the guest expire in her sleep. Oh, fantastic. Or he crept in with his passkey and pressed a chloroform-soaked rag to her face. Ah, romantic. The choice was his, a measure of his power. Yes, of course, because who could have guessed this one, right? I mean, it's not like they were blundering levels of red flags with this guy, right? Thank God for Google, right? Google and Yelp. You know, thank your like for Yelp sometimes, you know. A review can save your ass, man. It really can. No matter what the approach, the act always left him in possession of a fresh supply of material, which he could then explore at will. The subsequent articulation by his very talented friend, Chapel. Remember, articulation means, you know, discarding flesh and blood and just keeping the damn bones, the skeleton. I can't believe the word articulate means that, and to the layman nowadays, articulate means, you know, just pronouncing your words properly, pronouncing the end of your ERs, you know, danger instead of danger. See the danger out there? Let's continue. He disposed of other spent material in his kiln or in pits filled with quicklime. He dared not keep Chapel's frames for too long a time. Yeah, he didn't want to get caught. Early on, he had made it a rule not to retain trophies. The possession he craved was a transient thing, like the scent of a fresh-cut hyacinth. 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 Once it was gone, only another acquisition could restore it. Alright, so this dude was bloodthirsty, if you will. Next subchapter, called One Good Turn. In the first week of June of 1893, Ferris's men began prying the last timbers and planks from the falsework that had encased and supported the big wheel during its assembly. The rim arced through the sky at a height of 264 feet, as high as the topmost occupied floor in Burnham's Masonic Temple, the city's tallest skyscraper. None of the 36 cars had been hung. They stood on the ground like the coaches of a detailed train, but the wheel itself was ready for its first rotation. Standing by itself, unbraced, Ferris's wheel looked dangerously fragile. It is impossible for the non-mechanical mind to understand how such a Brobdingnag, what the fuck is Brobdingnag? Brobdingnag. Brobdingnag. This isn't even fucking English. Alright, let's continue. It is impossible for the non-mechanical mind to understand how such a Brobdingnag continues to keep itself erect. While Julian Hawthorne, son of Nathaniel, it has no visible means of support, none that appear adequate. The spokes look like cobwebs. They are after the fashion of those on the newest make of bicycles. Alright, what the hell is this? This dude is using my strategy. Hey man, no. I did not die at the start of the game for you to camp in a bush. Yeah, go do a 360 no-scope. Get out there. Show yourself. You're lucky you're a woman. On Thursday, June 8th, Luther Rice signaled the firemen at the big steam boilers 700 feet away on Lexington Avenue, outside of the Midway, to build steam and fill the 10-inch underground mains. Once the boilers reached suitable pressure, Rice nodded to an engineer in the pit under the wheel, and steam whooshed into the pistons of its twin 1,000-powered engines. The drive sprockets turned smoothly and quietly. Rice ordered the engines stopped. Next, workers attached the 10-ton chain. It's because the word stopped at the very end of the line, and a new line came after. You know how sometimes it has that little hyphen after the end of the last word going into the next line. So I read it as one word, 10 ton, right? Next, workers attached the 10-ton chain to the sprockets and to a receiving sprocket at the wheel. Rice sent a telegram to Ferris at his office in the Hamilton building in Pittsburgh. Engines have steam on and are working satisfactorily. Sprocket chain connected up and are ready to turn wheel. Okay. I wasn't watching. How's this dude doing? Dude, pick up that AR. Live a little. Oh, dude, you're no fun. So lame. You're such a loser, dude. Such a loser. Ferris was unable to go to Chicago himself, but sent his partner W.F. Gronow to supervise the first turn in the early morning of Friday, June 9th. As his train passed through the south side, Gronow saw how the great wheel towered over everything in its vicinity, and just as Eiffel's creation did in Paris. The exclamations of fellow passengers as to the wheel's size and apparent fragility filled him with a mixture of pride and anxiety. Ferris himself, fed up with construction delays and Burnham's pestering, had told Gronow to turn the wheel or tear it off the tower. Damn. Last-minute adjustments and inspections took up most of Friday, but just before dusk, Rice told Gronow that everything appeared to be ready. I did not trust myself to speak, Gronow said, so merely nodded to start. He was anxious to see if the wheel worked, but at the same time would gladly have assented to postpone the trial. Nothing remained but to admit steam and see what happened. Never had anyone built such a gigantic wheel that it would turn without crushing its bearing and rotate smoothly and true were engineering hopes supported only by calculations that reflected known qualities of iron and steel. So they were just taking a massive physics risk here. They were like, all right, well, physics says we should do it. Mother fucker.
The ones who fuss, tinker, and sweat the small stuff.
Do you ever shut the fuck up? Would you do that? If you do that, I'll fucking buy in. God damn, man. Don't you hate people? Let's continue. As I was saying, this was a physics experiment that they were trying out in real life, but on a grand scale. Let's go ahead. No structure ever had been subjected to the unique stresses that would come to bear upon, and within the wheel, once in motion. Ferris's pretty wife, Margaret, stood nearby, flushed with excitement. Gronow believed she was experiencing the same magnitude of mental strain as he. Suddenly, I was aroused from these thoughts by a most horrible noise, he said. A growl tore through the sky and caused everyone in the vicinity, the Algerians of Bloom's village, the Egyptians and the Persians, and every visitor within 100 yards, to halt and stare at the wheel. Looking up, Gronow said, I saw the wheel move slowly. What can be the matter? What is this horrible noise? Gronow ran to Rice, who stood in the engine pit monitoring pressures and the play of shafts and shunts. Gronow expected to see Rice hurriedly trying to shut down the engine, but Rice looked unconcerned. Rice explained that he had merely tested the wheel's braking system, which consisted of a band of steel wrapped around the axle. The test alone had caused the wheel to move 1/8 of its circumference. The noise, Rice said, was only the sound of rust being scraped off the band. Ooh, okay, so maybe this is working. Let's see. I wonder if this is the first time a Ferris wheel was ever tested. The engineer in the pit released the brake and engaged the drive gears. The sprockets began to turn and chain to advance. By now, many of the Algerians, Egyptians, and Persians, possibly even a few belly dancers, hey now, had gathered on the wheel's loading platforms. like to load in there. You know what? I'm not going to go there. Which were staged like steps so that once the wheel opened, 6 cars would be loaded at a time. Everyone was silent. As the wheel began to turn, loose nuts and bolts and a couple of wrenches rained from its hub and spokes. The wheel had consumed 28,416 pounds of bolts in its assembly. Someone was bound to forget something. Unmindful of this steel downpour, the villagers cheered and began dancing on the platforms. Some played instruments. The workmen who had risked their lives building the wheel now risked them again and climbed aboard the moving frame. No carriages were as yet placed in position, Gronow said, but this did not deter the men, for they clambered among the spokes and sat upon the crown of the wheel as easy as I am sitting in this chair. So they were committed, man. Keep in mind, these dudes were getting paid like nothing just a few months ago, right? The wheel needed 20 minutes for a single revolution. Only when it had completed its first full turn did Gronow feel the test had been successful, at which point he said, I could have yelled out loud for joy. Mr. Ferris shook his hand. The crowd cheered. Mrs. Ferris, sorry. Rice telegraphed to Ferris, who had been waiting all day for word of the test, his anxiety rising with each hour. The Pittsburgh office of Western Union received the cable at 9:10 p.m., and a blue-suited messenger raced through the cool spring night to bring it to Ferris. Rice had written, the last coupling and final adjustment was made, and steam turned on a 6 o'clock this evening. One complete revolution of the big wheel was made, everything working satisfactory. 20 minutes time was taken for the revolution. I congratulate you upon it. Complete success. Midway is wildly enthusiastic. It's kind of funny how they talk, you know. Sometimes they don't use apostrophe S's. They kind of speak in singular language. I wonder if they knew about, saying shit like, it's lit, back in the day. I doubt it. I don't think, old people aren't cool. You know that. Everybody knows that. The next day, Saturday, June 10th, Ferris cabled Rice. Your telegram stating that first revolution of wheel had been made last night at 6 o'clock, and that same was successful in every way, had caused great joy in this entire camp. I wish to congratulate you in all respects in this matter, and ask that you rush the putting in of cars working day and night. If you can't put the cars in at night, babbit the car bearings at night so as to keep ahead. By babbit, he no doubt meant that Rice should install the metal casings in which the bearings were to sit. Okay, so at least, get the skeleton in place, no pun intended. Get the skeleton in place to make sure this stuff is ready to go by the time the fellas get to work in the morning. Why don't you just say that? The wheel had worked, but Ferris, Gronow, and Rice all knew that far more important tests lay ahead. Yeah, like not killing anybody. Beginning that Saturday, workers would begin hanging cars, thus placing upon the wheel its first serious stresses. Each of the 36 cars weighed 13 tons, for a total of just under 1 million pounds. And that did not include the 200,000 pounds of additional live load that would be added as passengers filled the cars. Call me crazy, but there's, how my mother would say, no fucking chance I'll be the first person to try to test this shit out. Oh, dude, you're not that good. You're not going to kill this dude with a pistol. All right, never mind. I'm eating my words. I'm just going to go back to reading the book here. On Saturday, soon after receiving Ferris's congratulatory telegram, Rice cabled back that in fact the first car had already been hung. Beyond Jackson Park, the first turn of Ferris's wheel drew surprisingly little attention. The city, especially in Frappe set, had focused its interest on another event unfolding in Jackson Park. The first visit by Spain's official emissary to the fair, the Infanta Eulalia, the youngest sister of Spain's dead King Alfonso XII, and daughter of exiled Queen Isabel II. Who the fuck are you exiled as a queen? Is this like the Jeffrey Epstein, what's the dude's name? King Andrew? Did she get caught molesting some fucking kids or some shit and got exiled or something? That King Andrew fucker should get exiled too. But that's my opinion. The visit wasn't going very well. The Infanta was 29, and in the words of a State Department official, rather handsome, graceful, and bright. She had arrived 2 days earlier by train from New York, been transported immediately to the Palmer House, and lodged there in its most lavish suite. Chicago's Booster saw her visit as the first real opportunity to demonstrate the city's new refinement and to prove to the world, or at least to New York, that Chicago was as adept at receiving royalty as it was at turning pig bristles into paintbrushes. The first warning that things might not go as planned should perhaps have been evident in a wire service report cabled from New York alerting the nation to the scandalous news that the young women smoked cigarettes. First of all, there's nothing wrong with smoking cigarettes. I don't, but there's nothing wrong with it. Second of all, the idea that you need a fucking fair running into the millions to bring royalty, introduce them into your hometown, is the biggest middle finger to the little man on the planet. If royalty is not willing to walk into your doors and just hang out because they're human, they're not royalty. They're just given a title. That's all they're doing. They got a job that gives them a nice title. They're not special. They're like fucking celebrities. That's all they are. Hey brother, you're gonna die in the storm. I hate to break it to you. My royalty is able to walk into my house and say, let me help you with that. My royalty don't give a damn, my royalty is cool like that. This idiot. My girl Jasmine was lost in the storm. Well, she's not my girl Jasmine because apparently her brain doesn't work. And this family brains work. Let's continue. In the afternoon of her first day in Chicago, Tuesday, June 6th, the Infanta had slipped out of her hotel, incognito, accompanied by her lady-in-waiting, an aide appointed by President Cleveland. She delighted in moving about the city unrecognized by Chicago residents. Doesn't that smell of pretentiousness? Oh, I love that nobody noticed me. Well, don't be fucking famous in the first place, you idiot. I lost my place. There we go. Nothing could be more interesting, more entertaining, in fact, than to walk among the moving crowds of people who were engaged in reading about me in the newspapers, looking at a picture which looked more or less like me, she wrote. Dude, the pretentiousness in this fucking sentence. She visited Jackson Park for the first time on Thursday, June 8th, the day Ferris's wheel turned. Mayor Harrison was her escort. Crowds of strangers applauded her as she passed, for no other reason than her royal heritage. Yeah, see, that's my point. Newspapers called her the Queen of the Fair and put her visit on the front page. To her, however, it was all very tiresome. She envied the freedom she saw exhibited by Chicago's women. I realized with some bitterness, she wrote to her mother, that if this progress ever reaches Spain, it will be too late for me to enjoy it. Ah, I see what she's saying. No, I don't. I'm going to keep reading again. I realized with some bitterness, she wrote to her mother, that if this progress ever reaches Spain, it will be too late for me to enjoy it. Is she trying to say that she'll never be like one of them and she wishes she could be? That point I can understand. I don't envy celebrities, by the way. Those fuckers are, they're mental slaves to their fan base, man. 1v1. Oh, dude, you're aiming? Go ahead. Beautiful. Go ahead. Just shoot him. Yeah, what are you doing? Nice. Naruto wins, or whoever this guy is. Let's keep reading. By the next morning, Friday, she felt she had completed her official duties and was ready to begin enjoying herself. For example, she rejected an invitation from the Committee on Ceremonies and instead, on a whim, went to lunch at the German village. Chicago society, however, was just getting warmed up. The Infanta was royalty, and by God, she would get the royal treatment. That night, the Infanta, I keep messing up the word. The Infanta was scheduled to attend a reception hosted by Bertha Palmer at the Palmer Mansion on Lakeshore Drive. In preparation, Mrs. Palmer had ordered a throne built on a raised platform. If that's not just pretentiousness, I don't know what is. Struck by the similarity between her hostess's name and the name of the hotel in which she was staying, the Infanta made inquiries. Upon discovering that Bertha Palmer was the wife of the hotel's owner, she inflicted a social laceration that Chicago would never forget or forgive. She declared that under no circumstances would she be received by an innkeeper's wife. Oh, dude. That... there's some instances where murder should be acceptable, you know what I mean? Like, vote via proxy amongst the people. Because the royal elite, right, they're 1%. All right, well, if we're going to have a democratic assassination, that's what we should have. Democratic assassination. Democratic death penalty, DDP. I'm starting it, right? If 1% of the population, the very, very rich people, say, no, don't kill her, and 99% of the people say, no, she said this, she's got to go. We should make an exception, especially if they're royalty. They're eating up a lot of the world's resources anyways, right? Why don't we go ahead and do the world a favor and just, I don't know, get rid of them? Food for thought. Let me go ahead and start this game up. I will not be welcomed by an innkeeper's wife. How dare you allow a peasant, a Gentile, a low-class heathen to get near me? Do you not know who I am? I'm the queen of Bullshitistan. Fucking hate those people. They should be shot. Alright, I thought that was a weapon. Am I lagging? Oh, jeez. Something tells me we might actually survive.
We see you getting after your fitness goals. But what about those money goals?
Why don't you see yourself the fuck out of my face? How about that? Why don't you try that?
And your progress, helping you see results, so you can keep checking off those financial personal bests and find your way to money. Progress never felt so good.
Can you find the name?
Download the Intuit Credit Karma app and start achieving your money goals today. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on.
Little bastard. What are you shooting me for, man? Me. Is there a way to find people who do ads and shit and like report them just for being annoying? Is there a way to do that? Alright, let's go ahead and get into a bush. I want to keep reading. Hate to break it to you, but I don't really want to play the game right now. A clown just absolutely tried destroying my feng shui, the ego on a guy, right? Should we just go give this guy free loot? Yeah, we can go give this guy free loot so I can... I think it's better when I have something on the screen that I don't need to focus on, you know what I mean? I wonder if there's a lag in the video too, or if it's just me. My eyes, if you will. Gentlemen, gentlemen. I mean, where to go, man? Where to go? If you hear Miss Frizzle and the Magic School Bus in the background, you're welcome. Alright, you know what? We're just gonna keep reading. Whoa, dude. Whoa. Hello. What's up, dude? What's popping with you, bro? Alright, let's find a bush we can just kind of hang out in. There we go. We'll hang out in this bush right here. You know me, big fan of the bush. Big fan of the bush. Bush needs to make a comeback, man. I'm telling you. I have a theory on the bush. Woman with no bush trims not only the hair, but the personality as well. I'm right on certain things in life, trust me. Let's continue reading. Diplomacy prevailed, however, and she agreed to attend. Her mood only worsened. With nightfall, the day's heat had given way to heavy rain. By this time, Eulalia made it to Mrs. Palmer's front door. Her white satin slippers were soaked, and her patience for ceremony had been extinguished. She stayed at the function for all of 1 hour, then bolted. Somebody here? Somebody here? Somebody here? What are we doing? Somebody here? Is there a clown here? I kind of had to. It's getting a little boredness, if you will. You'll see a bush, let me know. Let's go, yeah, let's go to those bushes right there. Right there. Dude, listen to this music, man. This is my jam. Alright. Good thing I saw the footsteps at the right time. The next day, she skipped an official lunch at the administration building and again dined unannounced at the German village. That night, she arrived 1 hour late for a concert at the fair's festival hall that had been arranged solely in her honor. She was that butthurt? Jeez. The hall was filled to capacity with members of Chicago's leading families. She stayed 5 minutes. What a bitch, man. I don't call women bitches, but I call this one bitch, you know? Resentment began to stain the continuing news coverage of her visit. On Saturday, June the 10th, the Tribune sniffed, "Her Highness has a way of discarding programs and following independently the bent of her inclination." The city's papers made repeated reference to her penchant for acting in accord with her own sweet will. In fact, the Infanta was coming to like Chicago. She had loved her time at the fair and seemed especially to like Carter Harrison. She gave him a gold cigarette case inlaid with diamonds. Shortly before her departure, set for Wednesday, June the 14th, she wrote to her mother, "I'm going to leave Chicago with Real regret. Okay, all right. That's good news, right? She had a good time, so it wasn't all bad. Chicago did not regret her leaving. If she had happened to pick up a copy of the Chicago Tribune that Wednesday morning, she would have found an embedded editorial that stated in part, "Royalty at best is a troublesome customer for Republicans to deal with, and royalty of the Spanish sort is the most troublesome of all." All right, so they're echoing exactly what I said. Some people need to go, you know? It was their custom to come late and go away early, leaving behind them the general regret that they had not come still later and gone away still earlier, or better still, perhaps, that they had not come at all. So that's an easy way of saying they're pissed that they didn't get exactly what they wanted. Little fucking crybabies, little cunts, little ungrateful hoes. Such prose, however, bore the unmistakable whiff of hurt feelings. Chicago had set its table with the finest linen and crystal, not out of any great respect for royalty, but to show the world how fine a table it could set, only to have the guest of honor shun the feast for a lunch of sausage, sauerkraut, and beer. Yeah, the dipshits. So that's the end of that subsection. The next subsection is called Nanny. I like the way the book flows, right? It's not like long chapters. Sometimes, I do want long chapters just to not even think about it. But it's always good when you're getting in the groove of reading a book. You just kind of want to see that you're moving ahead, you're progressing. You're not just looking at a bunch of pages with a bunch of words on them. Anna Williams Nanny arrived from Midlothian, Texas, in mid-June of 1893. While Texas had been hot and dusty, Chicago was cool and smoky, full of trains and noise. The sisters hugged tearfully and congratulated each other on how fine they looked. Minnie introduced her husband, Henry Gordon. Harry. He was shorter than Minnie's letter had led Anna to expect, and not as handsome, but there was something about him that even Minnie's glowing letter had not captured. He exuded warmth and charm. He spoke softly. He touched her in ways that made her glance apologetically at Minnie. Harry listened to the story of her journey from Texas with an attentiveness that made her feel as if she were alone with him in the carriage. Anna kept looking at his eyes. Dude, what? Oh, more people? What do we got? What do we got? What do we got? Could you believe this guy? The ego on some people just to show up unannounced, man. Ugh, dude, some people. So disrespectful. Let's continue reading. This is riveting gameplay, by the way. I should be getting paid for this. His warmth and smile and obvious affection for Minnie caused Anna's suspicions quickly to recede. He did seem to be in love with her. He was cordial and tireless in his efforts to please her, and indeed to please Anna as well. He brought gifts of jewelry. He gave Minnie a gold watch and chain specially made by the jeweler in the pharmacy downstairs. Without ever thinking about it, Anna began calling him Brother Harry. Oh, I bet she did. I bet she did. First, Minnie and Harry took her out on a tour of Chicago. The city's great buildings and lavish homes awed her, but its smoke and darkness and the ever-present scent of rotting garbage repulsed her. Yeah, sounds like New York. Holmes took the sisters to the Union Stockyards, where a tour guide led them into the heart of the slaughter. The guide cautioned that they should watch their feet lest they slip in blood. They watched as hog after hog was upended and whisked, screaming, down the cable into the butchering chambers below, where men with blood-caked knives expertly cut their throats. The hogs, some still alive, were dipped next in a vat of boiling water, then scraped clean of bristle. the bristle saved in bins below the scraping tables. Each steaming hog then passed from station to station, where knifemen drenched in blood made the same few incisions time after time until, as the dog advanced, slabs of meat began thudding wetly onto the tables. Holmes was unmoved. Yeah, I bet the dude probably did it himself as well, just to people. He's like, oh, you cut your pigs that way, you should see how I cut my women. Noobs. Minnie and Anna were horrified, but also strangely thrilled by the efficiency of the carnage. The yards embodied everything Anna had heard about Chicago, and its irresistible, even savage, drive towards wealth and power. The Great Fair came next. They rode the Alley L along 63rd Street, just before the train entered the fairgrounds. It passed the arena at Buffalo Bill's Wild West. From the elevated trestle, they saw the earthen, earthen, earthen floor of the arena and the amphitheater seating that surrounded it. They saw his horses and buffalo and an authentic stagecoach. The train passed over the fair's fence, then descended to the terminal at the tear of the transportation building. Brother Harry paid the 50-cent admission for each of them. At the fair's turnstiles, even Holmes could not escape paying cash. Naturally, they first toured the transportation building. They saw the Pullman Company's Ideal of Industry exhibit with its detailed model of Pullman's company town, which the company extolled as a workers' paradise. In the building's annex, packed with trains and locomotives, they walked the full length of an exact duplicate of the All Pullman New York and Chicago Limited, with its plush chairs and carpeting, crystal glassware, and polished wood walls. At the pavilion of the Inman line, a full-sized slice of an ocean liner towered above them. They exited its building through the great golden door, which acred across the light red face of the building like a gilt rainbow. Now, for the first time, Anna got a sense of the true, vast scale of the fair. Ahead lay a broad boulevard that skirted on the left the lagoon and the wooded island on the right, the tall facades of the mines and electricity buildings. In the distance, she saw a train whooshing over the fair's all-electric elevated railway along the park's perimeter. Closer at hand, silent electric launches glided through the lagoon. At the far end of the boulevard, looming like an escarpment in the Rockies, stood the Manufacturers and Liberal Arts Building. White gulls slid across its face. The building was irresistibly huge. Holmes and Minnie took her there next. Once inside, she saw that the building was even more vast than its exterior had led her to believe. Okay, so this is top 4 situation. It looks like I'm going to have to move a little bit. Okay, a lot of it, geez. I'm going to go ahead and play this out just because I know endgame, typically there are people who, these dudes play. They know what they're doing, to a degree. Obviously, they don't know what they're doing like I know what I'm doing, right? I obviously know everything about what I'm doing. No, but in all seriousness, let's get this dub, At the end of the day, I'm still a competitor. I'm still a man. Let's go ahead and do this. Shotgun on 3. Gloves on 2. Bat on 1. Escape route on 4. Chug on 5. Got it. So this dude is just a charmer, man. This dude's a charmer. I mean, obviously he's a murderer, right? Let's get that out there. Dude's a killer. Just a con man, in the most honest sense of the word. Dude was an absolute con man. Let's play this smart if we can. Keep your eyes open, Ryan. You know what to do. I needed the gloves. I needed the gloves. I had the wrong thing out. Rough. Wow. Wow. This dude. Oh, wow. This dude has weapons, man. No, I could have definitely. Oh, gosh. I don't know. Damn. Damn, man. I should have played my coverage. I saw the footsteps. I should have played my coverage. That rock was my best friend. F this guy, man. F this guy. I hope this dude never learns how to read a book. Sincerely. I hate this guy. Let's keep reading. I'm not bitter. I just wish him, nothing good in life. A blue haze of human breath and dust blurred the intricate bracing of the ceiling, 246 feet above. Halfway to the ceiling, seemingly in midair, were 5 gigantic electric chandeliers, the largest ever built, each 75 feet in diameter and generating 828,000 candle power. Below the chandeliers spread an indoor city of gilded domes and glittering minarets.
Granger knows that if you're a lineman in charge of keeping the lights on.
Does Granger know that I don't give a fuck about Granger? I hope Granger figures that out. I really do. I'd be a big fan of Granger if Granger shut the fuck up, That'd be great. Thanks, Granger. Below the chandeliers spread an indoor city of gilded domes and glittering minarets, mosques, palaces, kiosks, and brilliant pavilions. According to the popular Rand, McNally & Co. Handbook to the World's Columbian Exposition, at the center stood a clock tower, the tallest of the interior structures, rising to a height of 120 feet. Its self-winding clock told the time in days, hours, minutes, and seconds. From a face 7 feet in diameter, as tall as tower was, the ceiling was yet another 126 feet above. Many stood beaming and proud as Anna's gaze moved over the interior city and upwards to its steel sky. There had to be thousands of exhibits. The prospect of seeing even a fraction of them was daunting. They saw Gobelin tapestries at the French Pavilion and the life mask of Abraham Lincoln among the exhibits of the American Bronze Company. Other U.S. companies exhibited toys, weapons, canes, trunks, every conceivable manufactured product, and a large display of burial hardware, including marble and stone monuments, mausoleums, mantles, caskets, coffins, and miscellaneous other tools and furnishings of other undertakers' trades. Isn't it so fitting that they showed caskets and they were probably looking at their home to be within the next 10 days as this dude was about to, slit their throats probably. Let's continue. Minnie and Anna rapidly grew tired. They exited with relief onto the terrace over the North Canal and walked into the Court of Honor. Here, once again, Anna found herself nearly overwhelmed. It was noon by now. The sun directly overhead. The gold form of the statue of the Republic, Big Mary, stood like a torch aflame. The basin in which the statue's plinth was set glittered with ripples of diamond. At the far end stood 13 tall white columns. The peristyle, with slashes of the blue lake visible between them. The light suffusing the court was so plentiful and intense it hurt their eyes. Many of the people around them donned spectacles with blue lenses. They retreated for lunch, sorry. They made innumerable choices. You know what? No, I'm not sorry. People make mistakes. Fuck that. They had innumerable choices. There were lunch counters in most of the main buildings. The Manufacturers and Liberal Arts building alone had 10, plus 2 large restaurants, one German, the other French. The cafe in the Transportation building, on a terrace over the Golden Door, was always popular and offered a spectacular view of the Lagoon District. As the day wore on, Holmes bought them chocolate and lemonade. You like that? Lemonade. And root beer at one of the Hires root beer oases that dotted the grounds. They returned to the fair almost daily, 2 weeks being widely considered the minimum needed to cover it adequately. One of the most compelling buildings, given the nature of the age, was the Electricity Building. In its theatorum, they listened to an orchestra playing at that very moment in New York. They watched the moving pictures in Edison kinetoscope. Edison also displayed a strange metal cylinder that could store voices. A man in Europe talks to his wife in America by boxing up a cylinder full of conversation and sending it by express, the Rand McNally guidebook said. A lover talks by the hour into a cylinder, and his sweetheart hears as though the 1,000 leagues were but a yard. Damn. So this was like, I'm assuming before microphones, right? I mean, this is before any real advanced technology was out there, and it's like, look, damn, that's so crazy, right? I mean, we're recording this, we're reading on tape, my voice is here. I had a teacher in high school named Mr. Lewis, God bless his soul, passed away a few years ago to my understanding. But he lost his voice. He had a vocal cancer of some sort, and was unfortunate to lose his voice, but fortunately he still lived, and he was my high school English teacher. Nice man, great man, always wanted to work in Disney. That's all he wanted to do. He didn't want to do anything. He wanted to work at Disney. And just as like a greeter. He just wanted to be a greeter. And he played on tape for us one time. An old mixtape he made, I think for a girlfriend or something. But it had his voice on it. And just listening to that tape made you like, it didn't make you cry, but it made you feel something different. Like, whoa. Look at the kind of stuff we take for granted every day, you know what I mean? Hey, you mind? Oh, this dude. Let me get some loot here. How do you have the Midas touch already? Dude's annoying. Alright, let's continue. And they saw the first electric chair. Oh, that's quite fitting. I remember the first time I saw my first electric chair, I remember thinking, God, how beautiful that is. They reserved a separate day for the Midway. Nothing in Mississippi or Texas had prepared Anna for what she now experienced. Belly dancers. Let's go. Camels. A balloon full of hydrogen that carried visitors more than 1,000 feet into the sky. Persuaders called to her from raised platforms, seeking to entice her into the Moorish palace with its room of mirrors, its optical illusions, and its eclectic wax museum, where visitors saw figures as diverse as Little Red Riding Hood and Mary Antoinette, about to be guillotined. There was color everywhere. The street in Cairo glowed with soft yellows, pinks, and purples. Even the concession tickets provided a splash of color: brilliant blue for the Turkish theater, pink for the Lapland village, and mauve for the Venetian gondolas. The fuck is mauve? Isn't that like some purple or something? Like a lavender? Isn't it funny how, we really color race in such a black and white way? But if we wanted to be more accurate, it's like, well, no, actually, I'm beige. I'm a universal caramel, if you will. That'd be a lot more easy. We would get along a lot better if we were just honest with each other and accurate. Dude, just shoot him with your Midas. What are you doing, brother? Oh, dude. Sadly, the Ferris wheel was not quite ready. They exited the Midway and strolled slowly south back to 63rd Street and the Alley L. They were tired, happy, and sated. Sated? Sated? S-A-T-E-D? Sated. But Harry promised to bring them back one more time on July 4th for a fireworks display that everyone expected would be the greatest the city had ever witnessed. Brother Harry seemed delighted with Anna and invited her to stay for the summer. Flattered, she wrote home to request that her big trunk be shipped to the Wrightwood address. Clearly, she had hoped something like this would happen, for she had packed the trunk already. Holmes's assistant, Benjamin Peitzel, also went to the fair. He bought a souvenir for his son Howard, a tin man mounted on a spinning top. It quickly became the boy's favorite possession. All right. So we're pretty deep into the book. I don't want to make these videos too long, so I'm gonna check how long we are into. You know what? There's a 41 left here. How long is the video gone? All right. You know what? This is the last chapter, last subchapter. It's called Vertigo. As Ferris's men became accustomed to handling the big cars, the process of attaching them to the wheel accelerated. By Sunday evening, June 11th, 6 cars had been hung, on an average of 2 a day since the first turn of the wheel. Now it was time for the first test with passengers, and the weather could not have been better. The sun was gold, the sky a darkling blue. Look at that, darkling blue. I like that, in the east. Mrs. Ferris insisted on being aboard for the first ride. Was she nuts? Despite Gronow's attempts to dissuade her, Gronow inspected the wheel to make sure the car would swing without obstruction. The engineer in the pit started the engine and rotated the wheel to bring the test car to one of the platforms. I did not enter the carriage with the easiest feeling at heart, Gronow said. I felt squeamish, yet I could not refuse to take the trip. So I put on a bold face and walked into the car. Yeah, that's kind of how I go on airplanes. It's like I have to. I know what it's going to be. I know this is like a big unknown, but you know what? It's going to happen one way or another. Might as well do it with a smile, right? Luther Rice joined them, as did 2 draftsmen and the city of Chicago's former bridge engineer, W.C. Hughes. His wife and daughter also stepped aboard. The car swung gently as the passengers took position within the car. Glass had not yet been installed in its generous windows, nor the iron grille that would cover the glass. As soon as the last passenger had entered, Rice casually nodded to the engineer, and the wheel began to move. Instinctively, everyone reached for posts and sills to keep themselves steady. If that's not the truth, man, it's like when you're on a plane for the first time, and you're moving very slowly when you're just positioning the plane correctly. But when the engine starts roaring and you hit light speed, you grab for the person next to you, and you don't even have to know them, right? That's the truth. Everybody on the plane wishes they knew each other just so you can grab onto somebody. Because you know, once you've flown once you've flown a bit, you know you're going to be safe. But there's nothing that prepares you for that anguish. I just go through it. I just keep my hands to myself. I grab myself, a prayer motion, if you will. As the wheel turned, the car pivoted on the trunnions that both connected it to the frame and kept it level. Owing to our car not having made a trip, Gronow said, the trunnions stuck slightly in their bearings, and a crunching noise resulted, which in the condition of our nerves was not pleasant to hear. Yeah, I can't imagine that. Imagine being on a Ferris wheel for the first time, and you know, you're expecting a smooth ride and you just hear just terrifying, man. The car traveled a bit higher, then unexpectedly stopped, raising the question of how everyone aboard could get down if the wheel could not be restarted. Rice and Gronow stepped to the unglazed window to investigate. They looked down. Okay, I see what they're doing. They're test riding it to also see kind of the bugs that they'd have to fix in real time. Okay, I respect that. They looked down over the sill and discovered the problem. The fast-growing crowd of spectators, emboldened by seeing passengers in the first car, had leaped into the next car, ignoring shouts to stay back, fearful that someone would be hurt or killed. The engineer had stopped the wheel and allowed the passengers to board. Gronow estimated that 100 people now occupied the car below. No one sought to kick them out. The wheel again began to move. Jeez. Ferris had created more than simply an engineering novelty, like the inventors of the elevator. He had conjured an entirely new physical sensation. What the hell are we doing here? What the hell's the music at? Come on, man. So what are we doing? Here we go. Let's do this. Ooh. New sensation, new sensation. Where'd I stop at? New sensation. Oh, here we go. Gronow's first reaction, soon to change, was disappointment. He had expected to feel something like what he felt when riding a fast elevator, but here he found that if he looked straight ahead, he almost felt nothing. Gronow stationed himself at one end of the car to better observe its behavior and the movement of the wheel. When he looked out the side of the car into the passing web of spokes, the car's rapid ascent became apparent. It seemed as if everything was dropping away from us, and the car was still. Standing at the side of the car and looking into the network of iron rods multiplied the peculiar sensation. So seeing the possible ways you could die was like their sensation, right? So, oh, this bolt could break now. That piece of steel looks pretty rusty. What if it broke right there? He advised the others that if they had weak stomachs, they should not do likewise. When the car reached its highest point, 264 feet above the ground, Mrs. Ferris climbed onto a chair and cheered, raising a roar in the following car and on the ground. Soon, however, the passengers became silent. The novelty of the sensation wore off, and the true power of the experience became apparent. It was a most beautiful sight one obtains in the descent of the car, for then a whole fairgrounds is laid before you, Gronow said. The view is so grand that all timidity left me, and my watch on the movement of the car was abandoned. The sun had begun its own descent, and now cast an orange light over the shorescape. The harbor was dotted with vessels of every description, which appeared mere specks from our exalted position, and the reflected rays of the beautiful sunset cast a gleam upon the surrounding scenery, making the picture lovely to behold. The entire pack, talking like a New Yorker now, or a Bostonian. The entire pack, the entire park, came into view as an intricate landscape of color, texture, and motion. Lapis lagoons, electric launches, trailing veils of diamond, carmine blossoms winking from bulrush and flag. The sight is so inspiring that all conversation stopped, and all were lost in admiration of this grand sight. The equal of it I have never seen, and I doubt very much if I shall again. This reverie was broken as more bolts and nuts bounded down the superstructure onto the car's roof. Spectators still managed to get past the guards and into the following cars, but now Gronow and Rice shrugged it off. The engineer in the pit kept the wheel running until the failing light made continued operation a danger. But even then, thrill seekers clamored for a chance. Finally, Rice informed those who had shoved their way into the cars that if they remained, he would run them to the top of the wheel and leave them there overnight. This, Gronow said, had the desired effect. Gronow's my kind of guy, you know. Hey man, I'm telling you to get off. If you don't get off, I'm gonna put you up there. I'm not gonna bring you down. You know, you gotta be tough with these guys, man. I like that. Immediately after leaving the car, Mrs. Ferris telegraphed her husband details of the success. He cabled back, "God bless you, my dear." The next day, Monday, June the 12th, Rice cabled Ferris, "6 more cars hung today. People are wild to ride on wheel. An extra force of guards is required to keep them out." On Tuesday, the total of cars hung reached 21, with only 15 more to add. Burnham, obsessing as always over details, sought to decree the style and location of a fence for the wheel. He wanted an open, perforated fence. Ferris wanted it closed. Ferris was fed up with Burnham's pressure and aesthetic interferences. He cabled Luther Rice. "Burnham nor anyone else had any right to dictate whether we shall have a closed or open fence, any more than from an artistic standpoint." Ferris prevailed. The eventual fence was a closed one. At last, all the cars were hung and the wheel was ready for its first paying passengers. Rice wanted to begin accepting riders on Sunday, June the 18th, 2 days earlier than planned, but now with the wheel about to experience its greatest test, a full load of passengers, including entire families, Ferris's board of directors urged him to hold off one more day. They cabled Ferris, unwise to open wheel to public until opening day because of incompleteness and danger of accidents. Fair. Ferris accepted their directive, but with reluctance. Shortly before he left for Chicago, he cabled Rice, "If the board of directors have decided not to run until Wednesday, you may carry out their wishes." It's likely the board had been influenced by an accident that had occurred the previous Wednesday, June 14th, at the Midway's ice railway. The descending elliptical track of ice over which 2 coupled bobsleds full of passengers could reach speeds of 40 miles an hour. The owners had just completed the attraction and begun conducting their first tests with passengers, employees only, when a group of spectators pushed their way into the sleds. 8 in the first, 6 in the second. The interlopers included 3 of Bloom's Algerians who had come to the railway. One explained, "Because none of us had ever seen ice." A doubtful story, given that the Algerians had just endured one of Chicago's coldest winters. Oh yeah, that's pure bullshit. At about 6:45, I've never seen snow. Live in Buffalo, you know. Don't tell me you've never seen snow if you live in Buffalo. At about 6:45 p.m., the operator released the sleds, and soon they were rocketing along the ice at max speed. "It was about sundown when I heard the sleds coming around the curve," said a Colombian guard who witnessed the run. "They seemed to be flying. The first one around the curve, It struck the angle near the west end of the road, but went along all night. The second struck the same point, but it jumped the track, the top of the car, with the people holding tightly to the seats, broke the railing and fell to the ground. As it fell, the sled turned over and the people fell under it. Damn. The sled plummeted 15 feet to the ground. One passenger was killed. Another, a woman, suffered fractures of her jaw and both wrists. 4 other men, including 2 of the Algerians, sustained contusions. The accident had been tragic and was a black mark for the fair, but everyone understood that the Ferris wheel, with 36 cars carrying more than 2,000 passengers, embodied the potential for a catastrophe of almost unimaginable scale. Fair point. Very fair point. You don't want to run too many risks. The fact that, people rode the Ferris wheel the first time with no issues was a miracle. I mean, a fucking miracle, man. So that'll be the end of this video. We're gonna watch the end of this game. Who is this clown? Death Shaper 7770. Dude, you're not cool. You're not cool. Your name's not cool. You're not cool. Your skin's not cool. Your loot's not cool. I bet your hair's not cool. There's nothing cool or redeeming about you. You probably don't even read Devil in the White City, so you're just not a cool guy. You're just not, Dude's dropping stuff. What's he dropping? I hate to break it to you. If you take any storm damage, you're kind of screwed. I don't think playing this storm this way is, a smart idea. You get hit by a bat 1 inch into the storm, you're dead. Okay, all right. All right, let's see if dude has dude, med kit at the perfect time. Go ahead and use it now. Go ahead and use it now. Go ahead and use it now. I would have used it 5 seconds ago, but go ahead and use it now. All right, here we go. Here we go. This dude's got a chance now. Dude's got a chance now. Yep. I would pick up that pump and dump instead of your gun. Your gun's kind of terrible. Is it a green pump? I'd still get it. I'd still get it. I mean, you have SMG ammo. And SMG is going to do you a lot better than a shotgun, I think, late game. I don't think you're going to take a lot of short-range fights. Listen to me coaching like I know what I'm doing. Here we have dude using the Lamborghini as his cover. He's got to go forward to this guy, whoever's over there. You're taking the car, letting yourself be known. Interesting strat. Don't know if I would have... you know what? The fact that he's low ground and he has to push... Smart move. Smart move. I can't deny this. Smart move. Worst case scenario, the car gets, blown up or whatever. Yeah, you see him. Dude, shift into him. Accelerate into his face. Oh, dude, come on. Ladies and gentlemen, we're introducing ourselves to the most boring fight you've ever seen. This is a Dodge Charger versus a Harley Davidson. Oh my god, here we go. Harley Davidson motorcycle. Neither is gas efficient, neither is electric, neither cares about the planet, and quite honestly, I don't think either one of these jack-offs know how to play. Okay. You know what? This dude lasted a lot longer than I would have lasted in the final circle. So maybe the car is a strat. I would get high ground here. Your car is out of... Yeah, dude, you're not that guy. You're just not. You're not that guy. I hate to break it to you. You're not. You shouldn't even... What are you... Oh, dude, pump and dump would have saved your effing life. Yeah. Alright, thanks for watching. Yeah, until next time. This has been part 15 or 14, whatever the fuck I said. And until next time, thank you very much.